years now. And our goal is to create a strong technology ecosystem here on Long Island. We do that by teaming up with the various tech companies on Long Island, working with schools like Hunter Business School, as well as with all the local colleges here on Long Island. And we try to connect everyone together so that when companies are looking to hire, we help make those connections. In the past, we did networking events to kind of bring people together. Obviously, we can't do that now, so we're doing online and other things to try to keep the community going and building it and growing it. Overall, I think from what I've seen on Long Island, we've been doing pretty well and having a good tech ecosystem here. Um, I think it's interesting now that we're seeing people starting to leave New York City and move into Long Island in terms of buying houses. And I think we're going to see a growth in tech companies on Long Island as well. So besides LISTnet, as Kathy mentioned, we have a space called Digital Ballpark, and it's a co-working and event space in Plainview. We have about 24 companies here, companies of various sizes, small companies and some a little larger. And people have space here. They collaborate together. They work together. Uh, Started this about 4 years ago, and it's grown since. We lost we lost a decent amount of our tenants when this whole thing started. We lost about 5 tenants. I was a little worried about how things were going to go, but fortunately, we filled up those open offices again, and we're full again, and it's been pretty great. So that's another thing we have here. One of the things we created on Facebook that I invite you all to check out is a group called Tech Talk. And if you go on Facebook and search for LISTnet Tech Talk, or if you go to listnet.org, you can find a link for that. And we kind of created that as a resource for the Long Island community to kind of post their tech questions or find information. People can post jobs on there as well. So especially a lot of you could help answer people's tech questions or just post and share some tech articles on there. So that's one of the things I do. I also work in the industry. I work in software, and I have a company that does software consulting. Some of my clients are Town of Babylon, Town of Smithtown, some various accounting firms, and I even did a couple of projects for Hunter Business School, helping out with the database and all that. Joe was kind enough to work us on that, and we're now actually doing a project with Bridget on email marketing for you guys. So I've been in the industry. Also, I'll tell you my story. I was also on the IT services side, so I've seen all sides of this industry. I will say it continues to be challenging times, but I see that tech is growing. The companies I talk to all seem to be growing, all seem to be doing well, and seem to be hiring people. And I think increasing your knowledge is a good thing and will lead to better jobs for you all and better future. Doesn't come without work. It doesn't come without struggle. So I'll tell you my story and how I got to where I am. I started back. I had my first interaction with a computer when I was in second grade, and that was a Commodore VIC-20. And I remember they called us into the library and they were going to do this demo, and they wrote a little program where you could like print your name on the screen, and now we just take it for granted. Like who would even write a program to print their name? But back then, many years ago, it was interesting, and you could make the name scroll along the screen. But that was interesting enough. But then the person doing the demonstration showed how you can change the program, and I was just like shocked at that moment. And I'm just like, wow, I have to get one of these computers, because you can tell this thing to do something and then you can just type a few words and change what it does. And I was just amazed by that. So that started me down the path of computing. Uh, the next computer that came out, that was the home computer, Commodore 64, for those that don't know, had 20K of memory and it was a black and white computer. Then they came out with the Commodore 64, which had 64K and also had colors. And I remember seeing one in the store, and I remembered the program that I had seen in the classroom, and I started typing, and then I hit, run, and it said error on line 10. And I was like, wow, this thing's smart enough to know that I made a mistake and tell me where the mistake was. So I begged and pleaded my parents to get me one. They were expensive at the time. I'm like, this is birthday, Christmas, whatever you want for the next 5 years. And they did get me one, and how I really started working with computers. Interestingly, though, I always just did computers. I always worked with computers. I never considered it as a career. It was just something I enjoyed and fun for me. When I went to college, I wanted to get into the publishing industry, and I was an English and philosophy dual major, um, and did that with the idea that I was going to work in publishing, because I liked the idea, or what I thought of the idea at the time, that you go and meet with authors and you go have like 3 martini lunches and you have a lot of fun and all that. I graduated college in 1994. In the mid 90s on Long Island, a lot of people were concerned about the future of Long Island. A couple of things had happened. One, there was a company called Grumman that made the lunar module and a bunch of other things, was a giant government contracting company. And they got bought by this other company called Northrop. And when one big company buys another, usually it means they get rid of a lot of jobs. So a lot of people on Long Island work for this company, Grumman, and a lot of people on Long Island were going to lose their jobs. I had just graduated. It was like 1994. And people were saying, you shouldn't stay on Long Island. Long Island is finished. You should move away. A lot of my friends did move away. And I was not able to find the job that I wanted in publishing at all, whether the economy or whatever it was. So I said to myself, and we'll get to the computer stuff, but this is how a good way to look at things. I said, well, I can't work in publishing, but what can I do that's similar? So I applied to work at a bookstore at Barnes and Noble at the time, and it was for like $1 an hour over minimum wage or something. The pay was like almost nothing, but I didn't care because I just wanted to like go down that path. So I took that job, and I really, even though it wasn't what I had wanted originally, I enjoyed it. I got to run events at the store and do other things. Then a little while later, a publishing company on Long Island called Dover Publications did have an opening, but not as an editor, which is what I want to do. They had an opening in the warehouse and running a small bookstore. So I said, all right, I'm still not going to get the position I want, but this will get me closer. So I took that job, and I started doing that. And one of the things that was interesting as I did that job, I got to meet with the editors and see what they did. And it was not the fantasy that I thought of meeting with authors and going for 3 martini lunches. It seemed really boring to me. I was like, wow, that's not what I want to do at all. But meanwhile, in the shipping department, I was helping people do all kinds of things. And I'll never forget one day that kind of set me off in thinking maybe there's something to this computer stuff. Someone was trying to do something with a spreadsheet, and I said, oh, what are you trying to do? And I just went over and was helping them do all this stuff. And I thought nothing of it, because for me, a lot of this stuff I was able to pick up and learn, as I'm sure a lot of you have, and that's why you're pursuing knowledge in this industry. And the person was just like so amazed. And it just showed me that sometimes you just take things that you can do for granted that are difficult for other people. So I was like, wow, I can do this stuff and seems to be really good. I said, I, I, I didn't want to be an editor anymore after I learned what it was all about. So I said, okay, maybe I'll go into the computer field. And I only knew the stuff I had taught myself. I knew that I needed to supplement my knowledge a little bit. So at that time, I took a course at Hofstra in their continuing ed department. That was, was a intensive course, similar to the course that George teaches there on computers and programming. And I'd be taking classes in the evening. It was probably like a 9-month or whatever course to kind of get you learning what you need to do for programming. Wasn't really a lot of web-based stuff at the time. We were doing like C and Visual Basic and those languages. And at that point, an opening came up with a company that did work for the publishing company. So I decided to take a job as a programmer, entry level, after I took that course. Again, the pay was not really that great. The pay was low, but I just said, all right, this is the job that, is putting me on a path to what I want to do. I want to work with computers. Took that job and, started working there. Decided to continue my education while I was working and got a master's degree in computer science from Hofstra. So I did the work and study at the same time. That company, that was kind of got us to the mid-90s. In the mid-90s, there was a dot-com boom and tech was very hot and everyone working in tech was all excited. And much like you see now, everyone was excited about certain tech stocks and everyone was going to be rich. And I remember the company I worked for got sold to a company in Florida, and they were going to go public, and they were going to make a ton of money. I remember one day we came in, and everybody that owned the company was walking around the hallway with calculators, trying to figure out how many millions of dollars they were worth. And if you hear about these stories before, you won't be surprised by the ending that eventually that stock became worth zero. And it was a bunch of people that were running a scam that took all the money, and all the people that owned companies, I wasn't one of the owners at the time, basically lost what they had. And now I found myself, in a position of what am I going to do? Because I had this job. At that point, I had been making a decent amount of money for the time, after being there for a little while. So I kind of thought about it and I said, well, I know they're charging the customers so much per hour for me. Maybe I can get out there, and if I charge a little bit less than that, I can get some work on my own. So I started to do that. I started to go out and look for programming jobs. I also, while I was at that job, learned about IT support and services, so I was able to do some of that stuff as well. And eventually, I teamed up with another person who was doing more of the networking and computer support, and we kind of started to work together. I would bring him into my clients when they needed like a new server or something set up, and he'd bring me into his clients when they needed some help doing applications or little spreadsheets, things like that. We both worked out of our homes. We both worked very hard for a long time. And after a certain amount of time, we decided to open up an office together. And we found a place in Great River called the Long Island Tech Center. This was about 2005. And we took a small office. I learned quickly about running a business and the overhead you had, and understood why now the other companies I worked for were charging more per hour is because they had more overhead. So we had to figure out a lot of things we didn't know before because we had just been people that knew how to do tech stuff. We now learned a lot of the stuff about starting a company and how you do it. One of the great things that happened that wasn't really planned by us, but the building that we were in, actually, one of the companies downstairs was actually LISTnet. So we started getting involved with LISTnet, and through that, we were able to connect with a lot of other people in the tech community on Long Island. We were able to find the advisors we needed for things like accounting, law, and we grew our company. At a certain point, we brought on another partner, a third person, because I was like a lot of you guys, or like a lot of people. I didn't have a lot of money, and I started this company, and then we needed money to grow. So we brought someone in that had that, and that person died within the first year. It was very unfortunate. So again, another setback. And part of the reason I'm telling you these stories is to show you there's always going to be setbacks. There's always plans, and you always try to do things, and you always have to deal with adversity. We're all dealing with adversity on a major scale right now, but you can't let it beat you. You can't let it get you down. You have to just say, this is my path, and maybe I have to figure out something new, but you got to keep trying to advance. So we had to deal with that. We had to buy out his shares from his wife. And at the time, we decided to merge with a larger company that was going to help us, with the money and all that. So we did that merger, and that did not work out the way I hoped as well either. Our new partners created other issues for us. So after a while, I ended up walking away after, having founded this company in 2005. In 2012, I walked away, and I said, well, crap, what am I going to do now? So I went back and got a job. And again, it wasn't exactly the job I wanted, but I had gone from owning my own company to needing work. And an opportunity came up with this company that did tech staffing. And they had all kinds of spreadsheets that were a mess and all this and that. And I said to the owner, hey, I can do this. I can take these spreadsheets, I can create programs for you and fix this up and straighten out this thing. It was not a glamorous position, but it helped pay the bills. I was commuting to the city for that job, and over time, then, as he saw what I did, I got promoted in the company, and I was basically the second in command of that company at a certain point. And again, starting out by just taking on a challenge that nobody else wanted to do, and for a little less money than I ideally would have wanted. But again, sometimes that's the choice you make, and you hope that it gets you where you want to go. All along the way, because I know a lot of you are considering your path, is consider that if you have to take a job or do something and it's not your ideal, is it at least something that gets you on the path to where you want to go? We all care about money, and money is one of the most important things, but it's sometimes more important to make sure that this is something that's going to help you or teach you new skills or develop you further and get you there. And the money, if you work hard and are good, will eventually come in this industry. So at that job, I was eventually got more money. And then I found out that the owner was going to sell his company again. Having been through that once, I learned that I was happier in a smaller company than a larger corporate kind of thing. So I decided to go out on my own again. And since I had started a company once, I knew a little bit about what was involved. So I said, well, I better find something that can pay my bills, because I had a mortgage and I had other things to take care of. So an opportunity came up to help with LISTnet, and LISTnet's a nonprofit, so it wasn't a tremendous amount of pay, but I figured if I work with LISTnet and then got some of my own projects on the side as well, I could eventually make enough money myself. That was about 2014. So I did that and, started to grow my own software development and consulting business. And over time, the person who founded LISTnet is Peter Goldsmith. He's still around, but eventually he's going to retire. So last year, I took over as president of LISTnet. My software company has been growing, and I've been doing a lot of good things with there. I actually work with another Hunter graduate who's Ali Riggio, who George taught, and she helps me with some of the LISTnet websites. I get to run this digital ball place over here, which has been a tremendous experience. And again, I started out like a lot of you. I did not have this career in mind initially. I took additional classes. I continued to teach myself and invest in my own learning, and I still do that now. I take online courses. I try to stay up with some of the latest stuff, because this industry, while I love it and is a great industry, if you don't keep up, you're eventually going to be left behind, because we all know things just change on a regular basis. It's great to have that good foundation, but it's really important that you keep teaching yourself, keep learning these new skills, whether that be about virtual machines. Now we have containers like Docker, all the different platforms like AWS and Azure. Sometimes it's overwhelming, so you kind of have to pick areas that you want to focus on. I know some of you are on the IT services side and some of you are on the software development side, but just kind of find the things that you like doing and do that. But also, have some broad knowledge as well and be able to do different things. Don't be afraid to take on the stuff that nobody wants to do, because that's how you kind of make a name for yourself. You take on these challenging things and you do it. Don't be afraid if it's not exactly what you know, because one of the benefits of the learning you're doing now is you'll be able to pick up on these new things and learn these new things. And I would say, like, my story is like a lot of other people's stories. I had one idea in mind and had some successes and some failures, and I had to change and adapt along the way. And that's where I see things now. The world is in a crazy, crazy place. The country's in a crazy place, and we have no idea what's going to happen. But one thing you can do is keep your skills sharp, keep developing your skills, keep learning on your own. If you're struggling to find work, start to do some of your own projects. I always encourage people also, find a nonprofit or a church or something that you're part of that need help. Help them do a website. People that are hiring, and I've hired plenty of people, always love if someone says, "Oh, I helped do this website," and you show it, and make a website for yourself, something that you have a hobby that you're interested in. Put stuff out there that people can see. If you're on the IT services side, play with virtualization on your own. There's a lot of tools you could download for free, and you can set up your own networks and play with that stuff and test stuff. Get yourself a Raspberry Pi and play with it. You go buy one of those for like $50. It's a great tool. It's got all kinds of stuff built in, and you can learn a lot of great stuff. We really are in a DevOps focused world where it pays for people that do software to know a little bit about infrastructure, and it pays for infrastructure people to know a little bit about coding, scripting. That'll really help you with everything going on now and the skills that people are looking for. Some of the things, because I know people are interested in that, I think are areas where there's going to be high demand, are going to be dealing with data, possibly even using artificial intelligence to deal with data or dealing with large data sets. Web is always going to be important, especially certain platforms like WordPress, but also being able to tie that into digital marketing and all things like that. Database is always a key thing with data. Containers, Docker, that's going to continue to be the trend. Virtual machines as well, but I think containers are going to eventually be equally important if they're not there already. Robotic automation and how to script things like that. Security is only going to continue to grow in importance, and being able to bring some ideas on how companies can keep things secure or helping people do that is a critical skill. IoT, absolutely. IoT is definitely something that's grown. I'm doing a couple projects now that are IoT based, and requires knowing a lot of different things on how that works. Networking knowledge is always very valuable. Know the basics of networking. If you're, you know, if you want to get into the web world, know how to register a website and configure all that. Learn about DNS. Learn that stuff. It's great to be able to do more. You may not be able to do all that, but I'll tell you, having hired people, it's always impressive if a company says, "Oh, we need to be able to do this," and you're able to say, "Oh, I can take care of that for you." Uh, Employers are always impressed by that. A key thing, I'll talk a little bit about some of the what they call soft skills for tech people that are very, very important. And a lot of people don't realize when you go on an interview, whether in person, virtual, or you're just writing an email, present yourself professionally, treat it professionally, make a good impression. If you're supposed to call someone at 2:30, make sure you're calling at 2:30, not 2:35. It's, all these things matter. If you have a job, show up on time, if it's virtual or if it's in person. Even if it's an internship, even if you're not getting paid for it, just treat it as if people are watching everything you do. Because even if they're not watching everything, the overall impression, how you carry yourself, how this stuff comes through. And even if it's a low level job, don't treat it that way. Even if you say, this is not what I really want to do, I don't really care about this. If you don't care, it shows. If you care and treat it as if it's important, and even though it may not be your ideal thing at the moment, just bring everything you have to it and say, I'm going to use all my knowledge, all my skills to make this better. And I'm going to look for ways that I could, help this place I'm working be better and do better. And eventually, either that place will notice or someone else will notice, and you will advance in this field. Because the field rewards people that do well. And eventually, some of you may decide, like me, if you're crazy, to start your own businesses. And that can be a lot of fun and very rewarding too. I enjoy it. I wouldn't say it's for everyone, but if you have that passion and that drive, one of the things we do at LISTnet is try to help people that want to do that connect with the right resources and whatnot to do that. Right now, I will be honest and say the one thing that I do see out there in the market, because I talk to a lot of business owners. We have a couple of groups we run in LISTnet. One is a group for technology CEOs on Long Island. Another is a group for CIOs of Long Island companies. So a lot of companies right now might be looking to hire, but the entry-level hiring has slowed down. And I know that a lot of you may be looking for that entry-level job, and that could probably be frustrating. But what you have to say to yourself is, I may have to take something now, but I need to get a year or two of experience so I'm no longer going for those entry-level jobs. But you got to get yourself past that first point of being inexperienced and not having that. And once you do that, then finding jobs and doing things become easier. You'll also meet a lot of people and be able to interact and make those connections better. But I won't lie, the entry-level hiring is a little tricky right now. It is because companies are dealing with so much. A lot of them don't want to do a lot of training. Now, you guys do have an advantage because you're getting some real training now, which is very worthwhile. But again, don't let it frustrate you. The other thing I would say to keep doing no matter what is keep learning, keep your skills sharp. Even if you can't find something, do your own projects, do anything you can to keep your tech skills sharp, because this is an interesting industry, and the people that stay sharp continue to do well in it. The people that don't get left behind. I always tell the story. There was something called Novell NetWare that was more popular than Windows way back when, and it was the dominant platform. And there were all these people that had NetWare certifications, and a lot of them thought that they had it made in the shade for life. And for a while they did, but then Microsoft Windows came out and it became the winner. I guess. And little by little, those skills faded. And some people were able to transition and learn new skills, but I knew a lot of other people that had just, refused to do that. They ended up leaving the industry, and you'd find, you'd talk to someone that was your waiter and say, "Oh," I said, "Oh, I used to be in tech." I said, "Oh, what did you used to do?" "I used to do netware." I said, "What happened?" "Well, this Windows stuff came along, and I didn't want to learn it because I already spent my time learning all this stuff." So don't be that person. That's not how it works here. Sometimes it's not fair. You're going to spend all this time learning stuff, and a few months later, something new is going to come out. But that's the way it is. I happen to like it because it always keeps it fresh. It always keeps looking for better ways and exciting ways to do things. To me, that's part of the fun of this industry. I got into it because I love the fact that computers could take away a lot of the busy work that people had to do. I remember when I was in school, um, some of you may be old enough to remember this. I used to have dittos, which were these like purple copies or whatever, or now even photocopies. And the teacher would just give you these dittos to fill out and just be like busy work. And I'd be like, this is insane. Why do people have to do busy work? And then you get to the workplace and you see the same thing. You say, wow, why do people have to like do all this? And you could just do a spreadsheet and do all that. And that's what the industry to me is really about, is taking our knowledge, our brains, and helping people do things in a better way, or helping keep the network safe, or helping someone that is stuck with a computer problem, you know, and they're just frustrated, and you come in and you help them figure it out, and they could be productive and do what they need to do. So I give you guys a lot of credit, guys and girls, for taking these courses. I know it's a lot of work because, like I said, I did it myself, where I went down one path and then I decided I'm going to learn this other stuff. And, it's not easy to learn this stuff and just go into stuff and learn new things and do things. Um, one of the things with tech is it is challenging and it is a struggle sometimes. But if you stick with it, I think it's a very rewarding industry. I would not change what I've done. I'm very excited about it. I'm very excited about tech in general, very excited about tech on Long Island. And I think there's a bright future for everyone.
Mr.
So go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Um, there was a key couple of things you say that I expressed a lot in my class to Miss Betty DeMont. It's
Mhm.
the fact that take what you know and apply it to certain things you could do individually. Like you said, when you said you lost your job, you said you had to find work on the side, correct? And you needed
Yeah.
more experience. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I like and I preach a lot in the class because I also the network side, I did go to DeVry a little bit, but
Hmm.
I had a setback. So I went to Hunter. And
Hmm.
Hunter, it's a good school. To
Hunter is a
me, I
good
really
school.
like it because now I'm getting the basics and learning a lot. It's all about the learn and how much you take in and how you can apply it. That way, if something happens, you still have that knowledge of what happened and made that thing fail. So you take that back and bring it to your next course of action. Because one thing with technology, another thing with humans is we want it quick, 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 fast. So I see how you made the spreadsheet to help the dittos go, but that's one thing as humans we like. We like fast. We like it to get it quick. Always make something that helps you get it quicker. But other than that, I like it. Cool, man.
Great. Great to hear. Great to hear. So yeah, if anybody does anybody have any questions or anything you want to know about this industry, finding work? I've worked as a programmer. I also ran an IT services company, so I've been on both sides of the industry, um, and happy to share some advice with anyone.
I'm on. My name's Kyle McGee. I'm on your website over here, and you have like a membership program. What is that about?
So sure, thank you for asking. You're on the LISTnet website?
Yes.
Yeah. So LISTnet is a chamber of commerce, which means that we are supported entirely from our members. So we're a nonprofit, but we can't ask for donations. We have members and sponsors. So someone will join as a member and they are helping support us, but they also get access to some more resources as well through that. That's what they have. If any of you want to join, I don't have it listed on there, but I'll come up with a student pricing for you. I'll give you a discounted membership of $100 for the year if you want to join. Just email me at paul@listnet.org or reach out to Kathy or someone else there and she'll connect you with me. So I don't have anything like that published, but on the spot, I'll just make up a deal for Hunter students if you want to join. So yeah, that's how we fund ourselves. Our members and our sponsors support us in doing what we do, but we reach out to the greater community at large. We work with Hunter. We work with some of the colleges on Long Island like Hofstra and NYIT. We work with a lot of the companies. We try to work with the local government, all with the idea of creating a strong technology community here. And, I can vouch for that because I remember graduating college in the 90s and a lot of people saying Long Island was finished. And there were a few people saying no. One of them was Peter Goldsmith, who started LISTnet. And he started LISTnet because of that idea. The people that started it said, well, wait a second. We have all these great schools here on Long Island. We have these research institutions like Brookhaven National Lab and Cold Spring Harbor. We have all these smart people that worked at Grumman and helped build the lunar module and all that. So how could Long Island be finished, as well as Long Island has a phenomenal public education system. All the schools on Long Island are great there. So Long Island really is a great place for that. The New York area in general, I think, is a great place for that. And that's how LISTnet came about. I was a member. Now I'm the president. Look, truthfully, LISTnet is facing challenging times now too, because companies that are not doing that well are cutting back on memberships and sponsorships in organizations like ours. But we're able to get by and we're able to continue on because we do have our members and sponsors that support us. And I think we'll continue to grow. I mean, I am now, working on things that I'm going to be adding to the website for more online interaction. We're doing more sessions like this. Like I said, we have a group for CEOs on Long Island. We have a group for CIOs of Long Island companies. Okay, so James, students sometimes feel they should know everything and fear not being worthy of a position. Okay, so I can give you guys a great reality check on that. I remember one of my first projects was with something called Lotus Notes. And I did not know anything about programming in Lotus. It had a language called Lotus Script. It was supposedly similar to Visual Basic. And I was just so nervous. I was like, I'm going to be revealed as a fraud. Like, I can't make this work. I'm like, how am I going to learn this? I learned, C and I learned Basic. I can't learn this stuff. And, I was ready to go to my boss and say, look, I can't do this project. You got to take me off this but I started, digging into the manuals. I started, spending time even after hours, like reading up on it, learning, and I learned it. It was a struggle. It was hard at first. And little by little, I started to feel more comfortable. And what I saw is I had that experience many times, like something new came along and I said, wow, even after I went to school, even after I got a master's degree, I would be nervous. I said, well, I don't know if I could figure this out. But, if you stick with it and do it, you'll eventually see that you can do it. And you eventually see that your training and everything will kick in. Again, not without struggle. There were times I was struggling. There were times, I would say, there were several times throughout the years where I seriously said to myself, I don't know if the tech industry is for me. Because you just get to that level of frustration, but you get through it and you eventually have those times happen less and less. Okay, so Vincent asks, how have MSP companies been able to continue business while employees are working from home? So that's a great question. MSP, managed service providers, have been busier than ever because now all companies are trying to enable their staff to work from home. And they've been able to leverage all the tools of working remote. And so they have this distributed workforce using voice over IP, VPN, where their employees can still continue to work. And a lot of them are starting to say they're not sure if they're going to have the big offices like they used to have in the past, because their employees can work from anywhere. They have the flexibility to work from anywhere. Google Hangouts and Zoom and all that allow them to meet with customers, and technology to remotely access computers. A big part of that, of course, is the security, which those companies are now helping people implement as well. So I think the future will have offices again, and people will be going to offices, but I think remote work and being able to help people remotely is going to be here to stay. That also opens up the possibilities that you can work for companies that are servicing clients all over the country or even all over the world. We have one guy that took an office here, for example. The company's called Pressable. They're owned by Automatic, which is the company behind WordPress. And his company headquarters is actually in Austin, Texas, but they're a distributed company. All the employees just take an office in a shared space like that, and then they communicate on Slack or anything else. They were completely distributed from the start, even before COVID. So I see that being an ongoing trend. And that's why I come back to, we're going to need more technology people than ever, because everybody is using all this technology. Would you say the market is saturated? How do we navigate that? Which market are you asking about is saturated? The IT services market? Is that Kless? Market saturated. I mean, I don't think the market is saturated either for developers or IT service providers. Again, it's challenging at the entry level, but most companies need more resources, need more staff. One way you navigate that is find something that makes you special, either extra knowledge that you have or something that is a little different. You want to make yourself stand out. You don't want to look the same as everyone else. You want to say, okay, I know IT services, but I also know a little bit about Docker containers, as one example, or I know about VMware, or I learned some Cisco stuff. You know, find something that makes you stand out a little bit. Cybersecurity career, what entry-level jobs should I look for? So entry-level jobs doing like scanning, auditing, a lot of the grunt work that nobody wants to do. All those cybersecurity companies need people to do that kind of penetration testing, or going through logs, things like that. So look for those kind of positions where you're doing a lot of the manual work. Again, it's not the glamorous side of things, but that'll get you started. So Luigi asks, coronavirus aside, one would think the entire industry would have gone the distance collaborating because everyone, okay. So yes, I agree with what Luigi's saying, that the industry would go in this direction. A lot of us that have been in this industry have been pushing for this kind of thing for many, many years. And with the idea that, you know, employees work better, this or that, there's been a lot of reluctance from company owners to have their employees work remotely because they just don't trust that people will get things done. There's also been, before the last, I would say 5 years or so, you really didn't have the bandwidth. You know, 5 years ago, we couldn't necessarily do a Google Meet like this and have all these people and have the video working without, you know, hiccups. You know, so the infrastructure has grown. I think what's happened because of COVID is companies have tried this out, whether they wanted to or not. I have friends that own companies, software companies, and they said they always wanted their employees to come into the office. And now they're changing their tune completely. So I think what this has done is just accelerate trends that were happening anyway. The virtual desktop, the cloud-based things, these were all trends, but it's like the next 5 years got squeezed into like 6 months, and we jumped like 5 years ahead from where we would be normally. I kind of give the example of when email first came out, not everybody was picking up email, but I knew email had made it when, like, my dad started to do email because he's in real estate, and when he got an email account and started to use it. And now the same thing with Zoom, like, Zoom and Google Hangouts and all that. Uh, of course, many of us always did video chat, but now your grandparents, your parents are all doing it. So it's really accelerated a lot of this. And Vincent, thanks very much for the kind words there. I would appreciate anyone that wants to join LISTnet. But even if you're not ready to join LISTnet yet, check out our Tech Talk group, get involved in the local community. A couple of things that I'll give another plug for. We used to host the Long Island Linux user group. They meet once a month. Right now, they're not meeting in person, but they have virtual meetings. You can go on lilug.org and check them out. The group is very friendly to beginners. It's Linux and open source. If you have any sort of problem or anything like that, that's a great group to reach out to. Also on their mailing list as well. We also have another group that we work with called the WordPress User Group Long Island. Anyone that's into WordPress, check them out. They're doing virtual meetings as well. You can check them up on Meetup, and various other groups on Meetup as well. One key strategy for success, that if you guys remember one thing from all the things I'm saying, well, number one, which someone else mentioned as well, never give up. That's one of the big keys to success. No matter what, don't give up. Keep going as long as you can. But the other thing I really stress to everyone is understand that you're responsible for your own learning. Take responsibility to continue that learning. You're getting a good baseline from what you're doing in this class, but keep learning. Understand that, like, if I interview 10 people and they all took the same class, but one person says to me that she got 2 Raspberry Pis at home and set up a mini cluster and did virtualization and put Docker on them, well, I'm going to be more impressed with her because I'm saying, wow, all right, it's great. You have the class, you all have the same knowledge, but you took the initiative. So that's a key. No one's going to do that for you. You have to be responsible for that for yourself. If you want to be successful, that's what you'll do. And again, it's not always easy. This industry, a lot of us have gotten, I've said many times, like, wow, it can be a very tough industry, but after a while, it's also a lot of fun and very rewarding, and you eventually get the money as well. Thomas is asking, can I join Lilug if I don't yet know Linux? Yes, absolutely. The group, you don't have to know Linux to join, and hopefully you'll learn from joining that group. And like I said, the mailing list is a great resource as well.
Mr. Paul.
Yes.
I got a question here.
Sure.
I know Citrix a little bit, that you go host your computer. I was hosting my computer from DeVry in school at my house, and I had the Raspberry Pi. My question is, Raspberry Pi Linux?
Yes, they have their own Linux. You can download it on a smart card and just boot it up on there. And they have a lot of learning tools built into the Raspberry Pi as well.
Yeah, so, I saw the memory card in there and I forgot about it.
It's a great device for learning. I have a couple of them myself. One I made a little music server, and the other one I just used to kind of mess around in. The other cool thing, because it's on those cards, is you can have multiple cards. So if you have one that you kind of mess around with, and you keep one clean to just use as a machine like that, it's a lot of fun. I'm just curious, and you guys can reply in the chat. Are there any future entrepreneurs out there? Or you can just speak as well and pick up. Anyone considering? Kyle, great. That's great. So,
my own company.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Yes, I'm starting my own company.
Okay, what is your company going to do?
Pretty much it's a branding company that does marketing, websites, graphic design, because I have a bachelor's in digital art as well. So there's websites, graphics, printing, promotional items, that one-stop shop for the local business who doesn't have to go everywhere. They can go to one shop for an affordable price.
That's excellent. And then eventually maybe you can get interns from Hunter as well. and eventually even hire people. That's the way this all works, that you make these connections. But all of you that want to start businesses, feel free to shoot me an email at paul@listnet.org or find me on LinkedIn. Paul, if you search Paul Trapani LISTnet, you'll find me on LinkedIn, and feel free to connect. Let's see, I'll put the link there if you guys want. We love getting new businesses started and helping make connections. And when you need it, we connect you with the resources you need to help grow that business and do that. And you know, like I said, it's a very good thing. It's a very fun thing. And if anyone's interested, we can do a session on what it takes to start a business. I'll talk to Kathy and I'll put something together for anybody that would want to see that. Do a quick little talk on things you need to think about to start a business.
Absolutely. We are going to be implementing workshops in the near future here. So it's
So maybe that could be one. If there's, it seems like you got a good, good response on people that hope to do it. It's that's great.
absolutely. That's one thing that we definitely need to have in this industry is passion, like Paul was talking about. That passion's going to drive you to continue to learn and give you that edge. Like Paul was saying, everyone's resume is going to look pretty similar straight out of the gates, but what's going to set you apart is the projects that you've worked on your own, your personality, your passion, and that's what's going to set you apart. That's what's going to let you shine through above your competitors.
Yeah, I think I would say overall, the group here probably already has a head start, because a lot of people would not take it upon themselves to take classes and get formal training. So you do already have distinguished yourself in one way, which people will look at, and that's a great thing. But just keep adding ways to make yourself distinguished and better. So.
Does anybody else have any questions for Paul?
I do have one more question.
Sure.
So I was in one of Professor Messer's live chats recently, and I was talking to him about a good language to start with if I wanted to learn how to code. Everyone was mentioning Python, but to me, Python looks like it's really, really flooded right now. Do you have a recommendation?
It almost doesn't matter what you learn to code. Python is a great area. Ruby is also great. You know, both Python and Ruby are great learning languages. There is high demand for Python. There's always demand for .NET, C#.NET. JavaScript is huge, you know, Node.js. But just pick one language, you know, and go with it, you know. I really like Python. I really like Ruby, you know. Those are two that I really like. Ruby, you have Ruby on Rails, which is the web framework, which actually I'm trying to teach myself now, not for necessarily projects, just for kind of keeping my knowledge going. I know Python. Python has Django as the framework, DJANGO. Python is very well worth knowing because it's out there a lot more. Ruby, other than Ruby on Rails, isn't as common, you know. So
just to add to that, do you have any resources that like good learning resources for coding?
For what? For programming?
Yes.
Like
where you can learn these programs.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff for programming.
We do have George.
Yeah, you have George. But one book I would recommend, it's think like, there's a book called Think Like a Computer Scientist, and they have versions in Python. It's actually called Think Python, How to Think Like a Computer Scientist, and they have versions in just about any language you can get. But any beginner book will do it. The most important thing if you're learning programming, and I tell this to people all the time, I'm sure George could verify, you can't just read the book. You got to write the programs yourself. You can't just read the book and just type what they have. You have to do the exercises. So the only way you're going to learn programming you can't just read and copy. You got to find problems and you got to work on them and you got to do them. And sometimes it's better to have help when you're doing that as well. A class like the one George teaches there is a good one for that.
You know, if I just jump in on that, Paul, I always tell my students, you know, if you go through a book and a tutorial and you get through it, all you've done is shown yourself that you can follow a tutorial.
Right.
You know, it's about taking the skills, and you'll learn a for loop in a textbook a certain way. It's about really, can I apply that for loop to any situation that requires repetitive actions? And that's where you really start to know the language. You know, but yeah, taking your self-studies, there's always, you know, people that can do it to a certain degree, but having some real world projects to work on, you know, take your web design, like Paul said, go to a nonprofit, go to a small business, say, can I design you your website? And just, you know, that's how you really learn that stuff.
You know, also like online forums and places like that. But again, just find a book, find something, find yourself a project. You know, I find that a lot of people have the motivation and stick with it if they say, like, I'm going to learn Python or Ruby or even PHP because I want to build a website for, I don't know, let's say you're into comic books and say, I want to build a website for Hulk fans or something like that, and make it something that is something that you would want to do. And now you're learning for that. I mean, you may do a made up project initially, but if you have a goal for it, I think it'll make you stick with it a little better.
Yeah, even myself, I'm always learning, even though I teach it, I've been doing it for many years. I always take like tabletop games that I know how the mechanics work and try to code a digital version of it. Because I know the expected output, I kind of know it well. I've had students that have done that for like Dungeons and Dragons or replicating old Atari software or something like that, just to get practice in it.
I would say if you're going to get into programming, learn Git early on, which is version control. It's important.
This is something that I tell my guys often. You know, we are in a unique situation where there are so many tools out there, tutorials, YouTube videos, sites like W3 Schools that will walk you through step-by-step learning each language, quiz you on it. We have that unique opportunity to provide the learning to ourselves. You know, if there is a gap in time, if you have a language that you want to learn, a skill you want to learn, a platform you want to learn, there's something out there for you to at least get familiar with it. So if you did, I tell my guys also, if you're going on an interview and that company does a lot of their coding in Django, get yourself familiar with it before you get there. You have that opportunity to do that.
So George is saying the new class starts in November at Hunter. For those that haven't taken it, it's a great class. I mean, I can tell you, you know, it really is a good program. I'll say a little bit about Hunter because we choose to work with Hunter at LISTnet, and one of the reasons we do that, because there's a lot of schools that offer this. Hunter is giving you guys a really good background, but also they're giving you a realistic path. And unfortunately, what I've seen other schools do is promise students a lot more than is actually reality, and they're not really delivering on that. So you guys are at a good spot where the professors are honest, the staff is honest, and you're getting a really decent background in programming. Are you going to learn everything you need to know about programming in 7 months? No. But you're not going to learn everything you need to know about programming, even if you go to any school for that. You're always going to have to learn stuff on yourself. But it's a great place to learn stuff. And the other good thing you have is Hunter is tapped into LISTnet, and through that, the greater Long Island community. I encourage you to reach out and join things. One day, maybe in 2021, I hope we'll have an event, a networking event, and you guys can all come to that. If not 2021, I hope 2022. But I really hope it's 2021 sometimes at this point. But yeah, on user groups, the virtual user groups like the Linux and WordPress, there's a whole bunch of other ones. If you go on meetup.com, the other advantage is now all these are virtual, so you can just participate in these. And when Kathy gets her workshop series going, connect that. You guys can create small groups among yourselves and just, you know, learn things like that. That's what I used to do. We were all had a group of friends, and we wanted to get like the Windows certification. So we got a book and we did a little study group, and each week one person would present the chapter. So just find ways to keep yourself learning, you know.
Absolutely. Okay. Anybody else have any last questions? for
And this
Paul?
Raspberry Pi thing, do you recommend us getting it or no? Cause I still got mine, but I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I would definitely
Will
get
it
it.
stay? Will it is able to help still or no?
Raspberry Pi, it's a great learning tool. Yeah.
There's so many things you can do with Raspberry Pis. Anything from like emulating old video games to literally having a portable pen test kit in your pocket. They're amazing devices.
Wow.
Yep, you can do so much like surveillance. You can do like a little surveillance camera. You could like set the metro. You could do many networks. You could do your own server. There's endless possibilities. There's even Facebook groups about it. It's nuts.
Just find one thing that you want to do. Like go on their website and they have a bunch of projects and you know, start. You got to start. I mean, just having it does you no good. You got to, you know, do something with it. All right, James is giving a plug here for Mr. Tech Bench. Looks like they're hiring, so people can follow that link.
Thank you, James. All right. Anybody else? Last call. Well,
Nope. Thank you.
thank you.
Paul. Thank you. You rock.
There's my LinkedIn if you guys want it.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you for participating. If you have any questions, you can always get in touch with me. I'm in Levittown, kseminario at 100businessschool.com. Any of your teachers can get you that email if you need it. Moving forward, I will keep everybody updated on those workshops that we're going to start. And good luck to everybody. And thank you again, Paul, for all of your information. And everybody check out LISTnet.
Thank
Thanks.
you, everyone. I'll see my
Thank you,
class
Paul.
tomorrow.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a great one, everybody.
Good night now. See you all tomorrow.
Good night now. Joe, we're ready for the next meeting?
I'm ready for the next meeting. Bring it on.
We got 7 minutes.
Sounds like the Waltons. Good night, boy. Good night,
Thank you,
Catherine. Good night, Paul.
And for the
All right.
good night, good fight. Celebrity deathmatch.
Thank you, everybody. And Paul, thank you again. Have a great one. It's great seeing you.
You too. Yep.
Thank you.